Hi everyone, this is Lorraine Driscoll, founder of Building Better Brains. I'm just on a nature walk along the beautiful St. Lawrence River, and I wanted to just do a short little video today on a little challenge that came up with my daughter when we were doing her math work. And I thought, if I'm dealing with this, and I'm pretty certain everybody else is too, particularly when it comes to subjects like math, or if you have a child who's struggling with reading. And that is that my daughter got to a point where she was really frustrated, really not happy, kind of got into that attitude or kind of shutdown mode that kids get into, or even adults get into when we're struggling with something. And both of us were kind of pushing through it and kind of struggling with it for quite a while before I realized the brain doesn't learn, doesn't process properly, doesn't absorb when it is stressed. And it doesn't have to be a major stressor. We know that kids are more vulnerable to learning disabilities or developing learning disabilities whenever they are experiencing trauma. But the same thing happens whenever kids have difficulty with any kind of subject, and they're kind of just going into that shutdown mode. And so the worst thing that we can do is kind of just keep soldiering at it to kind of get it over with. And while as much as we both wanted to be done math by 10 o'clock so we could enjoy the rest of the day, I realized what a total mistake that was. And I said, you know what, why don't you go outside? She loves going on her trampoline. I said, go jump on your trampoline for a bit, and we're going to come back to this later. And at first she was really resistant because, like me, she wanted to just get it over with so that she could have the whole rest of the day to herself. But I explained to her that what I want to explain to you, and that is that we obviously have many parts to our brain, but when it comes to learning and processing, there's the top part of our brain called the cortex. And then there's the lower brain, where we have our fight or flight, or amygdala. And that is what gets activated when we go into fight or flight. And when that is on, that's what we call the guard dog. It's reactive, it's very emotional, and it's the brain we use for survival. It's not the brain we're using for making reasonable decisions, for processing, for learning, analyzing, critical thinking, all of those tasks that we want good learners to do. That comes from the cortex. But whenever all of the brain, so to speak, energy, if you will, is in that amygdala state, kids cannot learn. So it really made me realize that the reason why she wasn't processing this math concept that I had been explaining for the last 15 minutes is because she had been in that state for the last 15 minutes, so it wasn't sinking in. So what did I do? I had her go out. She played around for about an hour and a half or so. I got some work done around the house. And then she came back in, really good mood, super happy. She just mastered some new handstand, hand walk or whatever. And then we sat down and did some math. And all of a sudden, she was in a much better mood and able to process and so forth. So just a piece of advice that if you're getting or your child's getting really stressed out with their math homework or their English homework or whatever it is they're doing, try to, if you can, just step away from it, and really teaching them that skill that whenever we encounter some kind of really frustrating thing, it's okay to step away from that challenge and cool down, because we cannot problem solve. I know for myself, even when I used to do my own website, oh my goodness, that was so challenging. I just wanted to take the computer and pitch it or set it on fire sometimes. And it was only ever whenever I walked away from it and then came back to it that I was able to overcome that difficulty, because now I was able to calm down. I'm in my cortex and I'm able to problem solve and figure out what is really going on. And when we're in our amygdala, we're not thinking straight, we're just kind of seeing black and so forth. So I'm going to talk more in a couple days. I want to do a video on why we can't stop overeating during this pandemic and why that is. And it's not just because you're home and you're bored. There's a lot more going on amygdala wise and fight or flight, and why we need to address that if we truly want to address overeating. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching.